Hey everyone, Souls Guy here. Wanted to show you guys the stats on my new build, the FireTwink Greatsword build, which basically is a Vigor slash Vitality Gouge build with the base requirements to wield the Firelink Greatsword. This weapon at 120 compared to the other weapons of the same class is pretty outclassed. It's not very good, but it has pretty good base damage and it has a self buff. So that got me thinking it probably will be pretty good on a low level build. And let me tell you, if you've seen the last video, you would know it's not fantastic damage. It's not the highest damage, but what it is it's good damage that requires little to no investment. If I only wanted to two-hand this weapon, I could have, 15 strength and still be able to wield this weapon with only 2 points invested to be able to wield it. So that frees up a lot of slots, or not slots, levels, for this build to be more efficient than other people's builds. Now, I got a comment on my last video by a uploader by the name Assassin of Sin. Actually, that was just his YouTube account. I don't know if he uploads content or not, but he said he's got a lot of low-level builds. He prefers low-level PvP. And I would have to say, I feel the exact same way, and for this reason alone. At 120, your build matters a lot less than it does at lower levels. And this has been said a million times. This goes all the way back to what meta should the game be soul level wise? Or what soul level meta is everybody going to agree to base their builds off of? And 120, in my opinion, in this game is too much. Every build looks about the same. 40, 40, damage stat, other stat 40. Basically, you know what I mean? Like, and that is the builds for like everybody. That's what everybody uses in the arena. That's what everybody uses for 120 PvP. And that's cool. That's fine. Everybody's kind of on a similar playing field. But to me, build variety and your build being somewhat unique was a main attraction to the games back in Dark Souls 1. In Dark Souls 1, I did a dex build, I did a strength build, I did, magic builds and faith builds, blah, blah, blah. But the main point is that there was an alternative to a lot of these builds. And it was the health gouge build, where you would level up health as high as it would go with the soft cap. And then, your vitality, or actually I think they were swapped in that game, or it was endurance that would govern how much equip load you'd have. So you could, instead of focusing on your weapon's damage, you could make it an elemental infusion and then just focus on your health, stamina, and endurance. Well, actually, stamina and endurance in that game was the same thing. But continuing on, you'd be able to give yourself good armor, have a ridiculous amount of health compared to the other people at the normal soul level, because they would be investing all of their points more spread out. They want some damage on their weapon. They want to have a little bit of health. Maybe they want to have some magic. Basically, the game rewards you for being as efficient as you possibly can with regard to your build. It's just the way that it is. If you decided I'm going to, spread my build out all crazy level-wise, low level, you would get smacked by somebody with an optimal build. And I wouldn't say at that point, I'm better than you, or he's better than you, or he's better than me. It would be simply, that build is very optimized and this build isn't. And a lot of these clips that you see, they're just outclassed by a more optimal build. I can just run in and just take shots. Like, I do it all the time. And that leads me into another discussion that we'll keep it brief for this video. And that is manipulating your opponent whatever way you can. So you'll see me taunt mid-fight. You'll see me L1 wiggle all the time. That is to bait out aggression. That is to get a reaction. That is to manipulate them to some degree. Whether they fall for it or whether they understand that's what I'm doing, it is going to change their mentality and is going to give me an advantage most of the time. So with this high health, high absorption, high poise build, I'll just run right into somebody, let them spam me, and then knowing that they have less stamina than they did before, get a read based off of that. or give them false hope that maybe they think that I suck, and then they'll do something. He will never do that, and then they get roll backstabbed, and they're like, oh shit, okay, this guy isn't a total noob, but it's kind of too late at that point. Now, another addition to this build that I've incorporated is the use of almost maximum Estus Flask. Normally, I limit my builds low level to like 3+3 when I'm in a world as an invader, so 6 total plus 3 Estus, but then that gets halved. This one, I went all the way through the game, and I would really like to give a shout out to old I Am Amish once again coming through, helping me out, get all the Estus shards, because I'm so tired of playing the PvE of this game. So that was kind of fun. Old Amish came in, and we ran through the game. And now, while I'm in the business of giving out shout-outs, this build is directly influenced by St. Riot's, I think he called it the Poise Twink Jr. or something to that nature. But it is his low-level Poise build. And I was thinking, you know, I like this build, but I want to see what I can do. I want to change it up a bit and you throw my own little twist on it. So this is what I came up with. And the Greatsword variant with 42 to, I think at one point I have 45 or 47 poise. It was just monstrous. Very, very effective. And a lot of people were sending me messages. I'm not talking about hate mail. I'm talking about, I guess, great mail. Where they're, oh my gosh, your build is this, your build is, how is your defense so good? You know what I mean? They were trying to figure out why their builds couldn't compete with this build. And that's why, because it is very, very min-max. Not as min-max as you can go. I don't pour through data. I just look through what I have to use and maybe ask a friend or two, oh, do you have this armor set? Do you have that armor set? I'm trying to figure out, what the best mix of these sets are so I can get the maximum reward. So this is the Greatsword FireTwink Greatsword version of this build, and as you can see right here, I think I swapped to the Wolf Ring, giving me that extra poise, and now I'm just tanking through these dudes. Like, no, I'm sorry, my R1s are better than your R1s. And most of the time you'll see these dudes are doing, I would either say subpar damage to mine or just bad damage in general. And then with that massive Estus boost, you see that he's getting chunked. His build is spread way too thin. Now, one main point here is you'll see me do that every once in a while. I'll have no FP, and I'll want to use the buff, because the buff makes the weapon do way more damage. Like, it goes from, 150 to 175 a hit unbuffed to over 200 buffed. And I'm talking about, when you see that buff damage coming at you, you better run, because if you get hit by those fucking R1s, your health bar is fucked. And that plays into another strategy that I use with this build. So normally in this video, you're not really going to see much of this, because this is kind of me just going hard in a friend's world. So the strategy employs the use of the weapon unbuffed in the initial, I would call it the first engagement, right? So in the first engagement, I don't want to throw all my cards out on the table and say, here's what I got, can you beat this? You know what I mean? I'm going to hit him with the unbuffed, and I'm going to try to hit him with the critical. So one way you can do this is, if you know they're going to hit R1, you can R1 them and then just set yourself up for a run BS the second they try to R1 out of their stun lock. And I'm not very good at it, haven't really tried it all that much, but it does work, and I have done it on several occasions. So I'm attempting to get a sort of knockdown. If I can put them on the ground or put them in a no stamina cornered position, that's when I'm going to use the buff. That is when I'm going to shoot the fire out unlocked and predict which way they're going to roll. If they fall for it, of course. Sometimes people are smart and they'll just stay in place or block or roll backwards and get out of the way. But the majority of the time, I'll catch people slipping with that weapon art. So once I catch them slipping, I knock them down on the ground. Now I have my buffed damage, which is going to destroy them. They're in a locked position, allowing me to get close enough to mess them up. And then, that's when I'll try to finish the fight. Now, that's the Greatsword build. Now on to the Ultra Greatsword build. This is 51 poise. I can switch some of the armor around and get a little bit more. I think the most I was having was 52. So with this build, it's essentially the exact same build as before. The stats are swapped around a little bit. I think I have to invest 2 points, one into faith and one into intelligence for the FireTwink. But so I can take those points away, invest them back into strength, and get an overall more optimized build because there's less investment in stats that I'm not going to use, and then just dump everything into health and everything into vitality. So that allows me to have 52 poise at soul level 44. Now I would consider this build pretty optimized, but the only problem is the Zweihander is not doing good damage with only 30 strength. It's just not good enough for me. So I'm probably going to try to go the route of an elemental ultra great sword, maybe, or I don't know. I have to do some more testing. I just made this just to see how high I could get the poise while still wielding the weapon without fat rolling. So, but with all this poise, you're able to tank some shit. That's for damn sure. And you'll see that in just a second. We'll just go full trade hard over here with the Zwei versus the Zwei. This is my buddy Kevin's world, and we're just kind of duking it out. So now, like I was saying before, 52 poise, 51 poise, whatever this is currently, allowed me to do that. Now, he took a lot of damage there, but if this weapon did good damage, he would have been in big trouble taking like 4 R1s from an Ultra Greatsword. So I'm definitely trying to find a more optimal damage with low requirements Ultra Greatsword. But now, let's talk about poise and the investment that it costs to have this poise. Now, if this was Dark Souls 1, I would say that poise is extremely important and that every build essentially should have poise because it is important. You are not getting staggered when you're running. You're not getting staggered when you're rolling, when you're just standing there. When you R1, it's very, very important in Dark Souls 1. Now, Dark Souls 2. Poise is now basically hyper armor, and you're not going to get that poise unless you're swinging your weapon. Now, Dark Souls 3 works in a very similar way, to where that poise is very good. It's effective, but only when you're fucking swinging your sword. So, or whatever poise weapon you're using. It only activates when you're doing something with a poise weapon. So, how often in a fight are you actually attacking? Or in an invasion, we'll say. There's some time when you're attacking, and there's some times when you're not. So, always having poise is really not that effective. It only works when you swing. So the problem there lies, okay, this NPC summon is using an Ultra Great Hammer. Now, Ultra Great Hammer is going to stagger me two-handed. If I'm fighting against somebody with an Ultra Great Hammer, and they are two-handing it, which most people will do, my build, my poise, is turned off. It is effectively useless, and all the points invested into poise wasted. Because I cannot do what these points are supposed to allow me to do. Now, that is not a big deal, and there should be limitations on everything. It shouldn't be the end-all, be-all Dark Souls 1 poise. But that is an important thing to think about when you're making a poise build, or how much poise do you want to use, because 52, I'm investing a lot of my stats into the ability to have 52 poise, and most of the time I'm not utilizing it. You know what I mean? Anytime I'm using an ultra or a great sword, yes, I'm going to be utilizing it, but all it takes is for my opponent to use a weapon that I cannot swing through, and boom, build turned off, basically. 30 points investment gone. So keep that in mind. That's very important. And that goes with a lot of things. A lot of people feel the same way about the Hornet Ring, or about the Obscuring Ring, or about just rings in general. Life Ring, you get hit, you take the life ring off. But for me, I'm not a super ring swap kind of guy. I mean, I will change if I'm using the Obscuring Ring and I know that, you know, I'm not going to need to be obscured anymore. Yeah, I'll switch it out. But that's just a little tidbit for you guys. Alright, that's going to do it for me, guys. This is the FireTwink build. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found the commentary less than ridiculous.